recording as well. See, Gagan, actually in the CCSP exam, you have to focus more from domain 1 to domain 4. Okay. Domain 5 and domain 6 is going to have very less weightage only. That means it is not something like you should not read domain 5. It's not like that. But give more focus for domain 1 to domain 4, but little focus for domain 5 and domain 6 and important topics only. From that only you'll be getting the questions. Okay. What are different types of data protection laws? What are the different types of audit reports? From that you'll be getting the question. Now, domain 5 is all about cloud security operations. Okay, domain 5 is all about cloud security operations. In this domain, I would say it is a continuation of domain 3. Okay, domain 3. The ultimate goal and objective of this domain 5 is there is a cloud service provider. Okay, there is a cloud service provider. So this cloud service provider is the one who built the data center. For building the data center, there are certain factors he has to consider. We discussed in domain 3, but it is going to be a continuation like this. And then once he built the data center, inside that is going to have racks and racks of servers. How is going to securely configure the server? In domain 3, we talk about maintaining the optimum temperature in the data center, but how? That we'll discuss in domain 5. And then in the domain 5, apart from all these things, the cloud service provider is going to provide the quality of service to the customers. How is going to provide the quality of service to the customers? By incorporating some standard. One of them is ISO 20,000, which is service management system. This is what the whole agenda in domain 5. This is what covered in domain 5. Right. From this, I will tell you what type of questions you will get, and we will do the review as well. First thing is, when we try to build the data center, okay, I'm sure that now you're aware about domain 3. Remember, right? Physical environment, physical security.
Yes.
Remember that fire detection system, fire suppression system, maintaining the optimum temperature, physical security controls, 22237, everything should be good, right? Because
Yes.
that will come in the exam. It is domain 5 is a continuation here. Now I have selected the location. Now I want to build the data center. While building the data center, is there any reference which I can do? For what? For building the quality of the data center, for redundant power cabling, I want to look some reference. What are some of the references which I consider? BICSI, IDCA, NFPA. Okay. What does BICSI means? Building Industries Consulting Service International. Okay. Building Industry Consulting Service International. Here for cabling standards, cabling related redundancy, kind of cabling related guidelines, they publish in this BICSI. Because I have to implement the cabling inside the data center, it may be a power cabling, network cabling. So for that, I can look as a reference in BICSI. International Data Center Authority, selecting the location for the data center, how to build the quality of the data center, how to create the infrastructure in the data center, everything you can refer in IDCA. NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association. Here they're going to talk about fire related protection, fire related issues, right? If there is a fire in a data center, where you have to put the emergency power off button. All these things we can take a reference as a guideline while building the data center. When building the data center, so far we discussed about the logical design. What about the physical design? Very important, right? Physical design. When I plan for the physical design, I should take into consideration certain factors. The building, the physical design should be in such a way, it should protect against the environmental threats. When I say environmental threats, I'm not talking about natural disaster will not happen, such a kind of thing. For 2 days rain, it should not flood the data center. Correct? So in such a way, I have to design the data center from the physical point of view. Also, I have to make sure there is a possible for expansion in the future, because when I build a data center based on the services I provide, I keep on adding the servers into the data center. So there should be a possibility for expansion in the future. That has to be considered, right, in the physical design. Kind of a modular approach. Flexibility should be there. Also, I have to consider one more factor. That means during the time of disaster, if people got stuck up in the data center, we have to provide them with the basic amenities like clean water, good power, good communication channel, and the food. I have to consider all these things while designing the physical aspects of the data center. Very important, right? Then after building the data center, and domain
And
3, yeah, please.
and physical design should be should take a reference from IDCA, right?
Nowadays, these are all some references, but nowadays you will not get any question from this. Nowadays, we are taking the reference from ISO 22237 only. Okay, ISO 22237. ISO 22237 covers everything. Remember ISO 22237, 7 parts. It talks about the
Yes.
location, it talks about the quality of building, everything. Nowadays, the latest syllabus only covers this one. This is for an information, I just shared it with you. Okay. Now you'll not get any question from this. Only from this you'll be getting the question. So these are all some of the things which you have to consider while designing the physical aspects of the data center. Now I have built the data center. Good. In domain 3, we talk about maintaining the optimum temperature, but how? By implementing the HVAC system. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. By implementing the HVAC system, we achieve the proper air management. There should be a proper inflow of the air, and then we have to expel the hot air out of the data center. For that, I have to implement the HVAC system, heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. Correct,
Yes.
right? So by implementing the proper solutions, I can achieve the proper air management. So there are many different types of ways I can implement it. If there is a rack of servers, from the bottom, I can blow the cold air and I can suck the hot air in the upper plenum. I can do different ways. But ultimate goal is you have to properly have the proper air management solutions in the data center. That is what two things they used to talk about. One is positive pressurization, negative pressurization in a data center. If the inside air is trying to escape from the data center to the outside, that is called as positive pressurization. Negative pressurization means the outside air tries to come inside the data center, that is negative pressurization. Positive pressurization is acceptable, but negative pressurization is not acceptable, because if the outside air come into the data center, it can come up with some dust particles and everything. So we have to prevent against negative pressurization by having a proper solutions in HVAC systems. You can clear. These are not in your book, huh? This is not in your book. Okay, but I have an idea about it.
Not
Questions,
in a
question.
book, not in a book, or not in the syllabus of CCSP.
It is not in the syllabus of CCSP. Okay,
That matters. That matters a lot.
but in the exam they ask you, man. They ask you these sort of questions.
Okay.
ISC square exam are like this only, man. Right? I told you some sample questions, right? When you got the fire in a data center, first thing which has to be shut down, HVAC system, because it pumps the oxygen into the data center. Correct? Like this, they'll test you, man, right? In the syllabus, it is not there. Any book, it is not there. But they'll test you like this. Okay. So these all things we have to take into consideration. Then we are good with the air management. Cables, networking cables. For that, you have to have a proper cable management, right? If you don't have a proper cable management, for example, I have a racks and racks of servers here. Okay. And if I don't have a proper cable management, cables are flowing like this from the racks. It is not a good practice, right? It is not a proper cable management, right? If it flows like this systems expel some hot air, which get locked here. This situation is called as hot spot. Okay, hot spot. Obstruction of the hot air because of the cables flowing here and there. It can create a situation called as hot spot because of the improper flow of the air. Got it? Hot spot means it happens because of the improper cable management. Obstruction, hot air got stuck between the cables and the devices in the racks. That's why we need a proper cable management. Now, we talk about data center, HVAC system, air management, cable management, physical security control, ISO 22237, everything is good. But here we have the servers. We have to configure the server securely. We have to follow the concept of secure configurations. We should not go with the default configurations. Here, most probably they will lock these servers for remote configurations. We don't allow that. You cannot sit from the second floor and SSH into the server and you can do the configuration. That is allowed in certain situations, but 90% it is not allowed. You have to walk into the C4 area. You remember what is C4 area? What is it? C4 area.
C1 to C4 areas, but I forgot the meanings, but I will
Yeah.
memorize during the last couple of days. So C4 areas, roles, and these are some things which I've kept in for last couple of days so that I can memorize before going for the exam.
Sure. C4 is like the core heart of the data center where you have the racks and racks of servers. Only authorized person with need to have access will be allowed to that area. We have multiple layers of authentication. So this particular employee has to go into that area. He has to connect to the server and he has to do the configuration. So how is going to do that? In a rack, we have multiple servers, right? Will he be going to connect to each of the servers to do the configuration? No. No. We will have a switch called as KVM switch. Okay, KVM switch. All the servers in the rack will be connected to the KVM switch and the user will be connecting to the KVM switch, and using the KVM switch is going to configure the server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4. This is the use of the KVM switch, but in the cloud, we make sure it is a secure KVM switch. Secure KVM switch poses some character. It should have isolated data channels. Okay, isolated data channels. Every server will be separately connected with a separate cable and it will be isolated from each other. That is isolated data channel. And then bufferless. Yeah.
Just a minute. I'll just pause for a minute.
No problem. And take your time.
Yes. Sorry, Melvin.
No problem. So bufferless design. So whatever the configuration we do here, there is nothing will be stored in the buffer. It will get flushed out. And then tamper proof. That means if somebody tries to open the KVM, it's going to start the LED blinking. That is tamper proof or evident. And also only we have a restricted USB functionality. That means only certain type of USB devices you can plug into that KVM. And also authenticated firmware. Authenticated firmware. That means only this firmware can be updated after authenticating to the KVM system. So like this, a secure KVM should possess this characteristic: isolated data channel, bufferless design, tamper evident and proof, restricted USB functionality, authenticated firmware update. Will I get any question from this? Yes. Refer my slides. I'll share the slides with you. In this, we have everything. Okay. Domain 5 slides. So
yes.
This topic, from this only you'll be getting one question. And then YAR management, positive pressurization, negative pressurization, sometime like research question they can ask you. But YAR management, they can ask you one question. Hotspot cable management, there is a chance they can ask you the question for sure from this. Apart from this, in a data center, in a cloud data center, we will have different services which will be running inside the data center. One of them is DHCP. They're gonna test you in this man for sure. Okay, services. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. What is the use of DHCP is? In a cloud data center, we have many devices, we have many systems, servers, and everything. Everything is connected to a network. Everything has to communicate within themselves in the network. For that, what it needs an IP address. Okay. For a system or a device, IP address can be assigned in two ways. One is manually, other one is automatically, dynamically through a service called as DHCP, which stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So what is the process involved in DHCP? It's called as a DORA process. There is a DHCP server. Okay. In the DHCP server, will configure something called as pool or scope of IP address. So this is a scope which I configured. Okay, this is a scope, something like this, 1.110 to 1.50. Now there is a server or there is a system or is a device which wants IP address. It sends a discover packet. Okay, for that it sends an offer, and then again it sends a request to accept the offer, and then acknowledgement. Okay, so they have taken the first character DORA. They name it as a DORA process. This will not come in the exam, but you have to know what is the use of the DHCP process. Now this DHCP server is down due to some attack. Now the server is sending a discover packet, but DHCP will not send the offer message. At that time, the system will automatically assign itself an IP address called as APIPA IP address in the range 169.254.0.0 to 169.254.255.255. A client will assign itself an IP address in the range. This is called as a APIPA, automatic private address IP assigned. Okay, how the questions will be framed in the exam. A particular VM which is being spinned on the cloud, right? It is not able to get an IP address, or it automatically assign itself an IP address in this range. So what is the reason behind this? Because of the failure of the DHCP server. Again, getting the point.
Come again on this point, this question.
There is a VM, right, in
Yeah.
the cloud. For example, you spin up a VM in the cloud inside a VPC, virtual private cloud. But when the VM starts, it is not able to get an, for example, in the VM starts, it has an IP address in the range 169.254, something like that. So what is the reason behind it? Because of the failure of the DHCP server, because the DHCP server is not able to assign IP, so it automatically assign itself IP address in this range, which is called as APIPA.
Okay.
Like this, they can test you. They'll not straight away ask you what is DHCP server. Don't expect such a kind of question. You tell, no, why I'm saying this means some people are asking me like this. Huh? How can they expect such a kind of question in IISc square exam? Not at all. I'm sure that technical straightforward question will be there, but they'll test you like this only. Indirectly, they'll test you the concept like this. If a system is not able to get a response from the DHCP server, it will assign itself an IP address called as a APIPA. If you know the concept very easily, you can answer this question. Kind of a scenario they'll ask you like this. Inside a virtual private cloud, a VM has been started, and once the VM has been fully started, when in the checked in the command prompt, the user, once he checks the command prompt, once he checks the IP address in the command prompt, this is the IP. So what is the reason behind us getting an IP from this range? They'll say DHCP failures. Now 4 options. You have to select the DHCP failure. Like this, they'll test you. Okay. This is one of the service which is called as DHCP.
What is the private IP of APIPA? I forgot. It start from
169.254.
Okay.
If any IP starts with 169.254, it is called as APIPA. Okay, automatic private IP address.
Okay.
DNS. What is the use of DNS? Very important service for a cloud data center. DNS, right? You create a S3 bucket. You create any system, any service. Everything assigned a domain name, right? You create S3 bucket. For example, I create S3 bucket called as demo 2022.useast.aws.com. This is a full path, right? Domain name. When I try to access this, it will get resolved to an IP address to a storage system where the S3 bucket is running, and I'm able to fetch the data. If there is a downtime in DNS server in a cloud, it is going to create a big impact. So what is a DNS? What is the use of DNS? Resolving domain name to IP. That is the use of the DNS server. But we have to secure the DNS server in a proper way. Why I'm saying like this? Because there are many attacks and threats for DNS. If you remember, there is an attack which happened in the past called as Mirai botnet attack. Okay. Actually, they did an attack against the AWS Dyn DNS server. By doing this attack, they were able to successfully bring down the DNS server for AWS. Because of that, it created big impact. Some customers might not be able to access their services and everything like that. So that's why there are a lot of threats for a DNS. But ultimate objective and goal of the DNS is to resolve a domain name to IP. In the DNS, what are the threats we have? We have a threat called as footprinting. Okay, footprinting. And then denial of service. And then zone transfer. One more thing is there, which is called as DNS shadowing attack. It is not in the slide as well. DNS shadowing. Footprinting means the DNS server will be storing the records for all the domains, correct? By querying the DNS server, I can able to get the information about the particular domain. That is footprinting. For example, there is a DNS server, okay? Google DNS. If I want to gather information about yatra.com, I can query the DNS server and I can get some information about yatra.com. What is their A record, domain, a host name to IPv4 address? What is their mail server information? What is your TXT information? What is their pointer information? Like this, all the information I can gather by querying a DNS server. I can do that, right?
Yes.
So that is what they're talking about footprinting. Ultimate goal of footprinting is gathering information. That it can be achievable by querying the DNS server. Denial of service, example I told you right now only, DOS attack. Zone transfer. Zone transfer means in every DNS server, we have the records. Okay, records. A collection of records is called a zone. Now, this is my DNS server. If I'm able to pull down all the records for all the zones from this DNS server to my local attacker system, that is called a zone transfer. If I'm able to dump all the content, all the records of the DNS server to my local system, to the attacker system, I can go through this information. I can get a good visibility about what are the different types of S3 domain names they have, everything like that, right?
Yes.
That is the concept of zone transfer. Transferring the zone, which is having a collection of records to the attacker system by exploiting the vulnerability in the DNS server. That is zone transfer. Then what is this DNS shadowing attack? When I create a domain called as abc.com, I will have an admin panel, admin account to maintain this abc.com, right? With GoDaddy or anything like that. If attacker takes over this particular admin account, attacker takes over the admin account for my account abc.com, then he can create multiple subdomains and he can put this in the DNS record of the DNS server and he can redirect the user to malicious websites, right? That is DNS shadowing attack. Taking over the admin panel of a particular domain and then creating multiple subdomains and redirecting the user to the malicious websites. That is a DNS shadowing attack. Got it, Gagan?
Okay, so DNS shadowing means redirecting the users to the malicious site, right?
Yes. By creating multiple subdomains, because when I have an admin account, admin login, I can create multiple records in the DNS server of this domain, right? So I can redirect the user to multiple websites, right? I can create rms.abc.com, sms.abc.com, and I can redirect the user to the malicious sites because I have the access to the DNS server through this admin account. I can enter the record, right? So that is DNS shadowing. Nothing will come in the exam, only this will come right now. There is an exact question in the exam. Okay, exact question. They will ask you a concept. So-and-so attack, what is it called? DNS shadowing. It is not in the slide, it is not in the dummies book, but in the exam it will be there. DNS shadowing attack. Okay, they'll test you like this. Clear, Gagan, up to this?
And what is the control for these vulnerabilities in DNS?
You have to follow the best security practices, man. We have no specific controls here. For example, for footprinting, we cannot do anything because you have to expose the DNS server. But for DOS attack, you configure the DNS server behind the load balancer, implement a lot of solutions for DDoS attacks. We have a lot of things, right? Black hole routing, a lot of things are there. You can configure that. And then apart from that, for zone transfer, do the whitelisting of the IP address, which can do the zone transfer. And for a DNS shadowing attack, enable MFA for your admin account. Put the controls and everything. This will not, they'll not ask you the controls, only threats they'll ask you. Okay. These are all some best practices.
But there is a technique called DNSSEC. DNSSEC. What is the DNSSEC?
I'm going to discuss that as well. Wait. So next service we have is SNMP. See, DNSSEC. Okay. DNS is very vulnerable. Okay. DNS protocols is very vulnerable. What happened was, for example, I'm sending a DNS request, okay, to a DNS server. Now this DNS server is replying back. While replying back, okay, how this particular client will get the authenticity, will get the assurance that it is actually from the original DNS server. Somebody can intercept it and then create some modify the record and they can send it right as the response. To prove that, they implemented the digital signature concept in the DNS records in the response. That is the concept of DNS security. By using the digital signature, we protect the integrity of the DNS response. That is DNSSEC.
DNS response from the server, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Is
Okay.
DNS spoofing is also DNS spoofing and DNS hijacking is also like DNS shadowing?
DNS spoofing is different, man. DNS spoofing is you spoof like a DNS server and you send the message. DNS hijacking, you hijack the DNS server and you poison the record. That's a different. That's not part of your CCSP. Huh? You don't have to worry about it. This is general one. That's in CSSP. We cover that. DNS spoofing, DNS hijacking, DNSSEC, everything is there. And CCSP, as per the syllabus, they're gonna test you in the DNS threats. What is DNS and what are the threats to DNS? We have 4 threats which we discussed. From the DNS shadowing attack is one of the things which they will ask you for sure. They'll not ask you about DNS spoofing, DNS poisoning. All these things will not be there in the exam for sure because it is not in the scope. They'll not ask you. Don't worry. Even extra questions, this is not coming right now. Only DNS shadowing attack. The question is there. You're taking before July, August, right? Before August 1st, right?
28th July. It's booked at 28th July.
8 days, man. Prepare. Huh?
Yeah.
SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. This one, there is a question, man. This one, there is a question. They will test you with SNMP. SNMP stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. It is used to manage the devices in the network. It's a management protocol. See, for example, I can install the SNMP agents in the server and the networking devices. And then from the SNMP manager, I can query the server about the status and other information, statistical information about this device. That is the use of SNMP. In the exam, they will ask you, what is the secure version of SNMP which we have to implement in the cloud data center? We have 3 versions, okay? SNMP version 1, version 2, version 3. Version 1 and version 2 does not support encryption and authentication. And version 3 supports encryption, authentication, compression, and everything. So the best answer for this question is, what is the suggested or secure version of SNMP? It is version 3. This question 100% comes in the exam right now. Okay, check it. Might be the
V3 support encryption and
encryption authentication is supported in version 3. Version 1 and version 2, everything sends in the clear text. So version 3 is secure one. Okay. So version 3 is the answer. That is one question I think in the post assessment. Just give me a minute. 1 minute, please. Let me showcase you one question. Just give me a minute. Okay, so let me open this slide. Just give me a minute. So let me scroll down. Can you see?
yes.
Like this, they will ask you in the exam. SNMP is an internet standard protocol for collecting and organizing information about managed devices in IP networks. It can be used to determine the health of networking devices, including routers, switches, servers, everything. What SNMP version supports authentication and privacy encryption of the traps. 4 options. There is nothing like SNMP v4. So the answer is SNMP v3. Like this, they'll test you. Got it right? I get a kind of a scenario, kind of they have given, and they'll test you. Now clear how they'll test you?
Yes.
So SNMP, remember, it's always version 3. It is a management protocol to manage the devices in the network. Then NTP, have an idea about it. Network time protocol. which is used to synchronize the time in the systems in the data center. NTP means it's related to synchronizing the time. NTP protocol, network time protocol, right? From this only you'll be getting the question DHCP, DNS, SNMP, and then NTP. These are all the protocols which can be used inside the cloud data center for a different service. These are all services, but inside the data center, they will have multiple security devices. Firewall, they will test you in firewall. What is firewall? Blah blah blah. Kind of a scenario they'll test you. What is the use of a firewall? Firewall is a device based on the rules which you configured. Either it is going to allow or block certain type of traffic. When we talk about firewall, we have hardware based firewall, okay, and software based firewall, okay. This is the two things which you know for the exam: hardware based firewall and software based firewall. If I just go here, right, if I just scroll down, this is my fifth domain slide. You can have a look at it later. See, they'll test you like this, okay. Firewalls, host based, software based, hardware based, and all. Okay, so we have different types of firewall. One is hardware based and software based. Software based firewall, for example, you don't know about the software based firewall. In Windows, we have the Windows firewall. In Linux, we have this IP tables. These are all software based firewalls. In the cloud data center, they prefer the hardware based firewall. You should have seen the hardware based firewall, right? Device from Juniper, from Cisco, from Palo Alto. These are all examples of hardware based firewall, which will be implemented in the cloud data center because of the performance. Because we are going to analyze the live traffic, something like that. So we need kind of a high switching processing power. So we go for a hardware based firewall. Application based firewall, it's a layer 7 firewall, which is WAF. For database protection, remember DAM. Domain for remember DAM. For
Yes.
database protection. It is a feature in a firewall. Right. So after firewall in a data center, they implement some solutions like IDS and IPS. Okay. Intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system. IDS is a detective control. IPS is a preventive control. This IDS and IPS can be implemented in different ways, right? At the host level and at the network level, correct? If I take up IDS, if I install it in a separate system, separately in the system, that is called as host-based IDS. It is going to only monitor and detect the traffic for the system. Also, this host-based IDS systems nowadays come up with the FIM, file integrity monitoring, right? It is going to check the integrity of the system files as well by using the hashing concept. And then if I implement the same IDS at the network level, it is going to monitor the whole network traffic. But IDS is a passive device. So if I have a switch, okay, these are all the connections. One port I will configure at a span port. And from this port, I'll connect the IDS analysis engine. So we send all the copy of all this traffic to the span port so that this engine can analyze. So it's a passive device, right? It is not in the inline of the traffic, live traffic. So if we implement the IDS at the network level, that is called as network-based intrusion detection system. Same thing applicable for IPS. I have a system, I install the IPS here, it becomes host-based intrusion prevention system. But if I install the IPS in the host, it is only going to prevent the host. Can this solution, host-based intrusion prevention system, can it be able to detect the lateral movement in the network? No, right? It is going to only protect the host. The problem here is when I install the host-based solutions, it is going to degrade the quality of the host, performance of the host. It will happen, right? Sure, it will happen, right? It is going to consume more resources. It is going to degrade the performance of the host. For sure, it will happen. True, right? So that is one of the concerns. Same thing if I take a IPS, I install it in the network level, that is called as network-based intrusion prevention system. And IPS will be in line with the traffic. Any example? Let me show you one picture. This is taken from the actual Adam Gordon book. Internet router, gateway router, and directly we connect the IPS in line with the flow of the traffic. All traffic will flowing through the IPS, get analyzed, and then only it goes to the internal system. So that's why it's called as an active device. It is in line with the flow of the traffic. But here there is one problem. What is the problem? There is one problem. Here, as it is going to analyze the live traffic, it is going to introduce little bit of latency in the stream. Little bit of latency. That is one concern, right? In the exam, what type of question you can expect is related to this. We want to implement a network-based intrusion prevention system. And what is one of the consideration? What is one of the challenge? It introduced latency in the stream. That is the option. If I implement a host-based intrusion prevention system, what is one of the issues in that? It degrades the quality of the performance. Point is there, you can check here. NIPS, introduce latency. It is actually taken from the official book. Okay. Kagan, yeah.
What I've heard, what I've read in CCSP dummies, you put IPS before the firewall, and they've mentioned that IPS and IDS are second layer of defense. They are behind the firewall. So where is the right appropriate way to keep them in network?
No. They'll not ask you something like this, but IPS should be in line with the traffic. Even they said firewall in the router, you can configure the ACL. After the ACL, only the traffic flows here. Okay. ACL, we can say layer 3 firewall kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So like this, but they'll not ask you in the approach and all, but they'll test you in this for sure. Okay. But it is not the right approach, man. It depends upon your requirement, right? It is not mandatory that you have to put the IPS behind the firewall. No, it is, you can expose the IPS directly to the after the router, you can expose it like this. After that, you can have a firewall. It depends upon, it's all a kind of a layered approach. That is it. That is it. Layered approach, defense in depth. Because it is taken from the official ISC square book. Okay. So that is not mandatory that it should be behind the firewall. But in a router itself, you configure ACL, which is a layer 3 firewall, you can say like that. But after the gateway router, we can put the IPS to analyze the traffic. Because if I put a firewall again, I have to configure the rules. After that filtering only it goes to the IPS. But if you put a IPS here, nowadays IPS is going to do the firewall role as well, right? Because in this we can configure different policies and everything. Because IPS detects the traffic based on different things, right? Signature based pattern, anomaly, heuristics based. So it is a good approach, right?
Okay, makes sense. Yes.
Yes, right. So dummies book, right? We can rely on the book fully, but everything is depends on our requirement only. Okay. And then honeypot. What is honeypot?
Trap.
Yeah, it is a digital trap. It is a deceiving. It is a deception technology. And cloud data center, most of the data center, they will set up a honeypot, which looks like a real server. And the attacker will be thinking they are just targeting the real server. They'll do the attack. It will capture all the tactics and techniques. By analyzing that, the organization will come to an idea what they're trying to do, and they'll try to protect their own server with that. That is what we call it as a use of the honeypot. It is a deception technology. What is the deception technology which is used to record all the attack patterns done by the hacker or attacker? It is called as a honeypot. What is honeynet? Collection of honeypots. It might be not be in the book, but in the exam, if they talk about what is a honey network, it's a collection of honeypots. Okay, some very simple straightforward question, 1 or 2 question will be there in the exam. You'll see that way. It's so simple questions. Okay, very complicated 10 lines 15 lines scenario based questions also will be there. But now last week some participants took the exam, they passed the exam, but they told me a lot of straightforward questions and a lot of 3 lines 2 lines questions is there. Nothing much scenario based question is there. Only 2-liner 3-liner kind of a question was there. There's a feedback they gave it to me. That's why I told you domain 5, domain 6, there is nothing much is coming in the domain 5 and domain 6. But domain 6, they're coming. Even compared to domain 5, you get some questions domain 6. But domain 5, very less question only. But domain 6, at least you're getting some questions. Okay. Now they are testing mostly in domain 1 and domain 4 and domain 3. Right. That guy told me a lot of application security related questions were the legacy application, which API, scalability, performance, that kind of a scenario based questions. A lot of things he told me like that kind of question it is coming right now. Roles. Okay, focus on the roles, Gagan, don't miss the roles.
Yes.
That kind of questions is there. Focus more towards domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, domain 4, and domain 6. Okay. Domain 5 you are getting. Domain 6 also tomorrow I'll tell you what will come in the exam. That only you have to focus. Okay. Other things are not needed in the domain 6 as well. Don't waste your time. And then here we are going to talk about the performance monitoring, right? Performance monitoring, I have the solutions, I have the servers and everything, but I have to do the monitoring to get the contextual information about how well these things are working. So for that, I have to do the performance monitoring. That is important, right? Either I can outsource it or I can have an in-house tool which will do the performance monitoring. That's what they have given it here. But from this, you will not get a questions. These are all some guidelines. Okay, these are all some guidelines. If I want to implement a VMware vCenter in my cloud data center, what are the references? What are some of the guidelines? I can have the reference of STIG, Security Technical Implementation Guidance. It's a guidance. Also, I can take the reference of DISA as well. Okay, it's all from Department of Defense, Cloud Computing Security Requirement Guidelines. These are all some guidance, some best documents. Now, this picture I have taken in one of the book, VMware. In the cloud, right? In the cloud, there might be a situation where I have to go into maintenance mode. You would have seen in many banking websites, in other websites, this service will not be available because we are going to maintenance mode. Have you seen that messages?
Yes.
So
Yes.
at that time, what the backend they'll do is they'll go into the maintenance mode. They'll maintain the server, everything. They will have a downtime. In the cloud, right? Mostly what they'll do is when they go for the maintenance mode, they will do the live migration of the running VM to another host. That we call it as a live migration. In VMware, we call it as a vMotion. So there is a concern again. When we do the live migration, we move the VM in the clear format, same format, nothing, no encryption, nothing. So there is a chance that somebody, right, malicious insert or anything attack can happen at that time. So there is a technique which is available that is called as a live migration, where we move the live running VM to another host so that the customer cannot experience the downtime. That is what we call it as a live migration. As well as there is a technique called as DRS, distributed resource scheduler. See, whenever there is a need, if this VM is requesting more resources which is not available in this host, it's a pool, right? It's a resource pool. What they can do is automatically they can move the VM to another host based on certain factors that we call it as a DRS, distributed resource scheduler. By the concept of the DRS, we make sure that one host is not overutilized or underutilized. That is a concept of DRS, a distributed resource scheduler. Okay. Any questions from this will in the exam? No. But from this, you'll be getting the questions. Maintenance mode.
Okay.
Maintenance mode. 3 things you have to memorize, Gagan, for the exam. When I go into maintenance mode, which has to be enabled, which has to be disabled. Customer access will be blocked for that particular host because we migrated to another host. Customer access will be blocked. Even if you see, right, banks and all put, we are going to maintenance mode. So customer cannot access the service. Customer access will be blocked. Alerts will be disabled. In the maintenance mode, I'm going to do the maintenance work. Ultimately, it is going to generate a lot of alerts. So alerts are disabled. Logging remains enabled. I have to make sure I log everything even during the maintenance mode. The question in the exam will be framed like this. During the maintenance mode, which should be enabled? 4 options. One will be alerts, one will be blah, 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 and other one will be logs, which should be enabled, logs. During the maintenance mode, which should be disabled, alerts. During the maintenance mode, which should be blocked, customer access. This, from these words, they will frame the questions. 100% this is coming. Okay. And that too related to the logs. So make a note of it. Remember this. Only small things you have to know in the domain file. Okay, clear?
Yes.
So maintenance mode, this you have to know. And then secure KVM features you have to know. See, so far we discussed about the physical aspects of the data center. This is logical factor. Cloud is a multi-tenancy. We actually have to plan for the multi-tenancy. You know what is cloud management plan? We have to protect it. Virtualization technology, right? That layer has to be protected. In the cloud data center, we have to follow the best practices, SOD. And also that should be a solution for monitoring the network traffic on the CSP side. right? Everything in the cloud is automation and API. So we have to secure the APIs and everything. SDN, we already discussed what is SDN. Remember SDN?
Yes.
Gagan, what are the 3 planes involved in SDN?
The below plane is beyond the physical architecture, the data plane, then control plane, then management plane.
Okay, good man. So which layer, which plane we have to secure most? Mostly we have to secure which plane?
CSP Domain, it is written that control plane, but I found that management plane is also very important to protect.
Management plane is very important, but the most thing is if you even compromise the management plane based on the level of access only, you can do the configurations. But if you compromise the control plane, you have the full control, right? So ultimate in any question talking about which is the most important plane to protect, it is always control plane. Don't get confused. Okay, don't get confused in that.
If it is written that management plane, control plane, data plane, and they're asking what is the most what plane do you want to protect, so it should be control plane, correct?
Only control plane. Because if they have the direct access to the control plane, they have the full control, right? Even through the management plane, we have role based and all this kind of access control will be there. Only certain configuration they can do. But if they have a straight away to the control plane, access to the control plane, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So we have to protect this layer. Don't confuse always control plane, right? See, don't think whether this might be the answer. No, don't think that. Whatever we discussed as the concept, apply it. If you overthink, you'll get confused. True or not? In the exam, yes. Whatever we discussed in the concept, rely on that, man. Don't worry. Just answer whatever we discussed. You will pass the exam 100%. Okay. If you think overthink like practical thing and everything, we'll get confused. Take the concept, whatever we discussed, question, apply the concept, answer it, come back with a pass. That's it. Right.
Okay.
So far, we discussed about the data center. Okay, the data center and physical aspects of the data center so far. True. Now we are going to talk about the operations inside the data center. From this only, you'll be getting some questions in the domain 5. Up to this, it is like a revision for domain 5 for you. Only 2 or 3 questions. But if question is coming, it will be coming from the operations part. Secure operations. What is it? We have a data center, right? We have the devices, everything is there, servers and everything is there. But we have to properly implement, we have to properly maintain the operations in the data center, right? So that we can expose the quality of service to the customers. True, right? For that, I have to follow some standard. What is the standard? Remember the standard. ISO 20000, which is Service Management System. You know ITIL, right? Same thing, we have ISO. ISO 20000, which is Service Management System. Now, I'm just going to give an idea about SMS. This will not come in the exam, but I have an idea. They will ask you about this standard. In a cloud data center, if I want to efficiently manage the operations in a secure way, what is the ISO standard which I can incorporate? It is called as ISO 20000. Right, very important standard. See, everything should be a systematic approach in the cloud data center, right? In any organization. So if I want to be a system, if I want to take a systematic approach, I have to follow some standard. One of them is called a service management system. I am going to provide the service to the customer. Can be an internal or external customer. To provide the quality of the service, I am going to adopt this ISO standard. ISO 20000 stand for Service Management System. Before implementing any standard, first I have to understand what is the scope of this particular standard. What is the reason I'm going to implement this ISO standard? Who are all the interested parties and the stakeholders? And then I establish the SMS system. No questions will come from this. Okay, only one question related to the ISO standard. Then anything, if it's had to be a successful one in the organization, I have to get the senior management support. So leadership should be there. I get the commitment from the senior management. Then I created the ISO 20,000 related policies, roles, and responsibilities. And then I plan for the solution, implement the ISO standard. Then after planning, I want to get the support from different teams. I need the resources to implement it. I need the people with the knowledge. I need the people with some awareness about ISO standard. And I need the correct communication channel. I have to document all the information, and I have to instill the knowledge to the people involved in the ISO implementation of the ISO 20,000. Everything has to be taken into consideration. Then after that, I implement, and then I operate the SMS system. Here, I'm going to follow some sort of approach to provide the delivery of the service to the customer. So for that, first I have to plan the service. What service I'm going to provide, I'm going to plan for it. And I'm going to check who are all the parties involved in the service lifecycle. I'm going to provide infrastructure as a service VM, EC2. To deliver this EC2 service, I have to plan for the service. I have to know about the parties involved in providing the service to us, service to the customers. Also, after this, I build up a service catalog. So log into a portal in AWS or Azure. You can see different services. That is service catalog. To provide that service catalog, we need a service catalog management. True, right? Then proper asset management should be there, right? In any organization, if you want to protect the asset by implementing the controls, first you have to have a proper asset management. Visibility is one of the key factor, right? Without visibility, how you will protect? If without visibility, how will you know what type of assets you have? So proper visibility should be there. For that, we have to have a proper asset management, right? Yes. Asset, we have to have the visibility of the asset. For that, we have to have a proper asset management. Once we have the visibility about the assets, whatever we have to configure it securely based on the baseline. So once I configure the assets based on the baseline, I have to capture that configuration information in a configuration management database. So for that, I need a approach that is called as configuration management. True, right?
Yes.
1 minute, just give me a minute. Let me open the page. Okay. Apart from this, after asset management, configuration management, we have CM. Change management. See, we introduce frequently changes. Okay. Is it we can take an ad hoc approach of implementing the changes? No. We have to go through a systematic way of implementing the changes so that it does not create any impact or it does not create any loopholes or vulnerabilities because of the changes. For that, we have to have a proper change management. So first they request for the change. Then this request for change will be reviewed by the change advisory board or change control board, whether we can implement the changes. If we implement the changes, what is the business problem we are trying to solve? What is the cost of implementing the change? This change is going to create any impact? Everything they'll review, right? Before approving or rejecting the change. Then if they reject it, it is NDR. If not, they'll approve the change. Once they approve the change, then we have to plan for the change. We have to test the changes. Okay, is anything going to create impact? No, then implement the change. Correct, implement the change. And after implementing the change, check for the user feedback. Is there anything happened? Any weird pop-ups, anything like that, right? Any negative performance degree, anything. Check for the user feedback. Everything is okay, we go with the change. If not, we'll prepare for the rollback. And then we capture everything in the documentation. Correct? These are all the steps involved in change management. The ultimate objective and goal of implementing a change management is to make sure systematic way of implementing the changes so that we get the visibility about the changes, so that we document everything. That is what change management, right? So these are the steps involved in change management. Will it be any question related to the change management? Yes, there can be a question related to the change management, right? We cannot say what type of questions, but they can test you. But if you understand what is change management, very easily you can answer that question.
Okay.
Then We have incident management.
And
Even
do we have a question? Do we also have a question from ISO 20000 SMS?
absolutely, man. These all comes under ISO 20000 only.
And what kind of it would be change? No, specifically to the ISO 20000 because it has a wide scope, a lot of domains, a lot of steps.
They will not test you in these tips and all, but they'll test you what is the one of the some standard related question they can ask you, man, for ISO 20000. Like what is the system, what is the kind of approach which we can take, in which systematic way of implementing the secure operations in the data center, what is the standard we can refer, ISO 20000, like that they can test you. They are not going to ask you about the implementation part. It is a separate training, huh? So you have to have an idea, but from this they'll ask you the questions. Change management, from this they'll ask you the questions. Everything, this from change management, incident management, they'll test you.
Okay.
You got an idea about what is change management, right? Then we have the incident management. See, event, okay, and then incident, and then breach. Event can be any activity, any action, either it can be a positive or negative. Incident is an event in which it creates the impact to the organization. It's a negative event. That is incident. An unplanned interruption or degradation in the quality of the performance can be called as an incident, which is a negative one. Right? That we call as an incident. Whatever the definition I'm telling you, it is actually from the ISC score official book. Okay, from the official book. And then we have something called as a breach. They access the attacker. Okay, the attacker exploited a vulnerability in the system and you have access to the data. That is breach. Okay, that is breach. Disclosure. After having access to the data, he disclosed the data to the third parties or he disclosed the data external. That is disclosure. Again, clear? It is the actual definition by IC square. Breach means, people will be thinking breach means access the unauthorized access of data and the disclosure it, right? That is breach. Right, but it is not. It is not. Breach means unauthorized access to the data. Disclosure means after having access to the data, we disclose the data to the external parties. That is disclosure. Clear, Gagan?
So breach means unauthorized access to the data is a breach, and disclosure means once we have unauthorized unauthorized access to data, it got disclosed and shared it to other person, right?
External parties, yes, but they have a wrong meanings. In externally, we have a wrong assumption for breach and disclosure, but this is the exact definition from IC square. Why I have discussed with you. They will test you on this breach and disclosure. Okay, they will test you on this. Is the exact definition in your official book, breach and disclosure. Okay, so you have to know that for the exam. Now, can we say that any organization, if anybody is saying organization is 100% secure, means it is, they are just bluffing. No organization can, they are 100% secure, right? Incidents can happen at any point of time. So efficiently manage the incident. We have the incident management team, correct? There is an incident happens. To effectively and efficiently manage the incident, we have the incident management team. What is the ultimate goal and objective of having an incident management? To reduce the impact. To reduce the impact to the organization because of the incident. Make a note of it. They'll give you an answer like what is the ultimate objective and goal of implementing or you having an incident management? To reduce the impact. True, right? Because we follow the incident management steps to contain the incidents and we reduce the impact to the organization. So that should be the answer. Okay. An incident happens, we effectively manage the incident. For that, we have an incident management team. Clear, Gagan?
Okay.
Then problem management. Problem management. Any question talking about the root cause, it is problem management. I'm just driving my car tire gets flattened. I just replace it one more spare tire. I just started driving. Again, second time car tire got flattened. Again, I replace. The activity right now, what I'm performing is incident management. But frequently this incident is happening. I want to identify why, what is the reason behind this? What is the root cause of this? That is problem management. Identifying the root cause of an incident is called as problem management. Clear?
Yes.
Let me show you one question related to that. Can you read the 37th question?
An issue with one of the cluster node was causing frequent outages to an organization utilizing public cloud service. The cloud administrator identified that issue was caused by the resource exhaustion in the affected cluster node and remediated it after several reoccurrence injuries. They spotted the root cause. How was this identified? Okay, so it is problem management because they identified the root cause out of it because there are several reoccurrence, right?
Perfect. Like this only they will test you. Can you see how long they have given the question? 4-5 lines, but ultimate answer is problem management. If you understand what is this, very easily you can answer it, right? Because lot of keywords are the root cause, reoccurrences, frequent. So they're trying to identify what has happened. So problem management. Now clear, right? You're getting the point, right?
Yeah.
Then incident management, problem management, change management, configuration management. Now patch management. Patch management. So patch management also we have a step-by-step process, right? Vendor notifies about the patch. Once the vendor notifies about the patch, either through email or whatever it is, the organization will never immediately introduce the patches. They will follow some systematic approach. First, they'll check whether this patch is applicable or not. If it didn't implement the patch, what is going to be the impact of it? Impact assessment. Whether it is a critical vulnerability, whether it is needed or not. Once they decided, okay, we have to implement the patches, then they will test the patches in the sandbox environment. And then after that, they will raise the request to the change management. Because there is a change which is going to happen, so we have to capture it in the change management. And then they will approve the change, and then they will implement the patches. That too, they'll not implement at once. They'll go for the rolled approach. They'll go for the what do you call that? They'll go for the step-by-step approach, part by part. They'll not fully implement the patches at one go, right? They'll go for the multi-phased approach. Small patches they'll implement first. And then after that, once they implement the patches, they'll get the user feedback. They'll review the system, whether everything is okay or not, because patches can break the functionality. Patches can break the system like this. So they'll review it. And if everything goes well, it's okay. Otherwise, they'll prepare for the rollback. And then if everything goes well, they'll capture everything in the document. These are the steps involved in patch management. So in the cloud, we should make sure we use some automated tools to implement the patches. For example, AWS SSM, System Service Manager, right? In that we have a patch manager option with which we can implement the patches. Same thing on the cloud service provider side, they use automation tools to implement the patches and they follow these steps. The ultimate goal and objective of implementing the patch management is to fix the vulnerabilities. Okay, patch management.
And
yeah.
For example, what do you suggest for automatic patch installation? It should be on or not?
No, in the cloud, they should go for automation solutions for the patch management.
No, I'm talking about automatic installation. Like for example, vendor release and we have a feature in Windows like auto download.
No. When I say automated technologies means after doing the testing of the patches, they can go for any solutions through which they can implement the tested patches in automated way in their cloud data center.
Okay.
It is not like in the personal laptop you get the automated updates, you don't install it. It does not happen in the data center like this organization. They follow the strategic or systematic way of implementing the patches. Okay. The ultimate goal and objective of implementing the patch management is to fix the vulnerabilities. Okay, so these from this only in the domain file they will test you change management, configuration management, patch management, incident management, problem management. Now, if I go back here, I'll go to the full screen. Just a minute. Okay, go to the full screen. So here you have the change management, all this kind of thing. Also, if a cloud service provider is releasing some applications frequently, they can take the approach of release and deployment management. They frequently release it. They release the updates as well as they deploy the updates into the production environment. That goes through the release and deployment management. Incident management, problem management, availability based on the SLA you signed with the customer, CSP is going to give the availability. Availability is based on metrics like 99.9%, 3 nines, 4 nines, 5 nines, and all. Availability is captured in the form of metrics like this. Okay. So for providing the necessary availability, which we agreed with the customers, we go for the availability management. Make sure the proper resources available to provide the availability of the service. And during the time of disaster, we have to provide the continuity. So that continuity management, BCDR. Okay. Now, also the cloud service provider has to do something like a supply and demand. So now I'm just going to launch a new service. So I have to predict the demand for the new service. I have to allocate the budget for that. So there comes the demand management. So how much demand I can expect for the newly launched service. According to that, I have to plan for the capacity management. I have to have the capacity of the resources to efficiently manage the services, right? Provide the services. Capacity management means it's not like you purchase all the servers and then you provide the services. No, with the limited amount of resources, how you can provide the services by efficiently using the resource. That is capacity management. Whenever I implement any solutions, right? Any solutions, it is operating. We are operating the SMS, but we have to evaluate the performance. We have to do the monitoring of the implemented solutions. We have to measure it in terms of metrics. We have to analyze it. We have to make sure whether it is everything goes as per the plan. And then we have to review. Management has to review it. And then if needed, we have to keep on improvise, right? Okay, we are expecting this matrix, but it is less. So we have to push little forward to improve it like this, right? By doing the performance evaluation and getting the metrics, we do the improvement so that we can continually improve on providing the service to the customers, right? This is the whole scope of ISO 20000. From this only, you'll be getting the question related to the ISO 20000 standard, SMS system, know about change management, problem management, incident management, patch management, configuration management. Absolutely, from this, you'll be getting the question. When I talk about changes, right? Changes. We have a normal changes. We have standard changes. Like this, we have different changes. Correct? You should have heard about it, right? Normal changes, emergency changes. Normal changes is all pre-approved changes which you can implement. Standard changes is where you follow the steps by sending the request. Emergency changes, first they implement the change, after that they will send the request, because in the emergency situation at the time of disaster, we cannot wait for the approval review and all, right? So in the emergency changes, first we implement the change and then we capture everything in the document. We get the review, we send it for review to the team, CAB team, CCB team. That is the difference between the normal, standard, and emergency changes. Again, clear? Why I discuss this with you? You can expect one question from this. That is the reason. Okay. This is what your domain 5 man. From this only you will be getting the questions. Let me scroll back. Let me go back. You can see here patch management. Everything I captured in slides one by one. Incident management. Can you see what I discussed with you? Event, incident, breach, a disclosure. Can you see that?
Yes.
From this, they'll test you. What is an event? What is an incident? They'll give you a scenario. They'll ask you, what is it? Is a breach or disclosure? Unauthorized access is a breach. If they exfiltrate the data, disclose the data to external party, that is a disclosure. Many people will go for breach, unauthorized access breach. Not unauthorized access is breach. Unauthorized disclosure, unauthorized exfiltration of data is disclosure. Small things they'll test you, man, right? So if you know that very well, very easily you can answer it. Supply chain. We have a CSP, right? Cloud service provider. He'll be relying on some third-party vendors for the supplies. So when we bring in the supply chains into the CSP data center, there should be some way to assess the suppliers. That's why we have something called as supply chain risk management to efficiently assess the vendor, manage the risk with the vendor. Usually what they'll do, how they'll assess the suppliers, Either they will ask for the documentation, do the documentation review, they'll ask for the audit reports, or they'll go in person and they will see how well they are implementing the security. Or they'll bring in a third-party auditor who is going to do the review auditing of the suppliers. So we assess the suppliers and then we bring the suppliers into the business, into the picture. There are many different categories of suppliers: strategic suppliers, tactical suppliers, operational suppliers. Strategic suppliers is the one who provides the strategic supplies. For example, virtualization support, something like that. It is very important, right? We cannot immediately change the strategic suppliers. Tactical suppliers might be a TI team from the external TI team providing me the support. External vendor providing me the support. That are all tactical suppliers. Operational supply, day to day. Your food vendors, right? Day vendors, everything, right? That all comes under operational suppliers. So everything will have access inside the cloud service provider. We have to assess them and then only we bring them into the cloud data center. Okay. From this, any questions will come? No, don't worry. This cloud forensics, this we are not going to discuss here right now. Why? Because it's the last slide, right? This one I'm not going to discuss right now here. Why? You can ask me why. Because
I think it's covered in the next chapter.
Yes, domain 6, we're going to have a very good coverage about forensics and everything. What is chain of custody? Chain of custody we already discussed, but we'll discuss it tomorrow as well. But one more thing, I wanted to discuss with you, the domain 6. This is the last slide. Domain 5, you will not get much questions. Only whatever I discussed with you, from that you'll be getting the questions. Gagan, you know TLS, okay? This is important topic, okay? This is important topic in domain 5. You will get question from this only. We have TLS. You know what is TLS? Transport layer security, okay? In TLS, we have two versions, 1.2 and 1.3. This is the client and this is the server, okay? So if I go for the TLS 1.2, okay, TLS 1.2, we send a client hello. Okay, for that there is a response server hello, and then there is one more thing which is change cipher, and then one more response, that is change cipher. After this only actual encryption takes place. So this particular one, this is called as 1 RTT, round trip timer. This is called as 1 RTT. Round trip timer means I send a request and I receive the response for that. The total time taken is round trip timer. Okay, RTT round trip timer. Now in TLS 1.2, after 2 RTT only, we send everything encrypted. Now in this phase, it is doing some sort of negotiation for the encryption parameters. This thing is taken care by a protocol inside the TLS that is called as TLS handshake protocol. Okay, TLS handshake protocol. After that, everything started encrypted, right? Encrypted communication happens. To manage this, we have one more protocol that is called as TLS record protocol. TLS handshake protocol performs the authentication, negotiation of the encryption parameters. TLS record protocol manages and makes sure the connection is secure and private. How they will test you in that, man. What are the two protocols? Handshake and record. Authentication, negotiation of the encryption parameters happens with the TLS handshake protocol. Making sure the connection is private and secure and managing the connection is called as record protocol. Clear? You can clear this part. Handshake and record. From this, they will test you.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between 1.2 and 1.3.
Handshake.
Tell me again, your voice is breaking, please.
So handshake protocol just establish the connection, right? And decide the encryption parameters, right?
Yes, it establishes the connection, it authenticates, and it makes use of encryption parameters to negotiate the connection. But TLS record is the one which manages and maintains the connection. Okay, it is like a manager which manages the encrypted connection. Got it now? Difference.
Okay.
1 minute.
So TLS record manage and maintain the correct connection in private and secure mode, right?
Yes, yes. It is making sure you can see which of the following is not a function performed by the record protocol.
Okay.
TLS record protocol is the one which manages the connection. It makes sure it is private secure. So it performs encryption, it performs acceleration, it performs compression, but authentication is taken care by the handshake. So that is not the one which record protocol performs. So authentication is the answer because they're asking about not a function.
And what is acceleration?
Acceleration, that is based on the caching feature in HTTPS.
Okay.
That is based on the acceleration. Compression means they compress and send the data. Everything is taken care by the encryption part, which we implement in the HTTPS, TLS. Okay, like this, they'll test you. Now, what is the difference between 1.2 and 1.3? In the 1.3, we have a client hello, and then after that, server hello. So after server hello, everything is encrypted. They removed this chain cipher message. So exactly after 50 milliseconds, everything started encrypted in the TLS 1.3. Any question in the exam talking about after server hello, in TLS 1.3, after server hello, everything is encrypted, true or false? True. Sometimes they'll ask you true, false as well. Okay. Or they can ask you a scenario based question. And if you know, after server hello, everything is encrypted in TLS 1.3 given. Because we don't have the change cipher message here, only client hello and server hello. That's why TLS 1.3 is fast compared to 1.2. TLS 1.3 removes all the vulnerable protocols as well compared to 1.2. Because it now uses Edwards cryptography algorithm as one of the main algorithms to perform the encryption, which is using ECC, elliptical curve cryptography. But this is too much, this will not come, but know about it. After server hello, everything is encrypted. Got it? Like this, they will test you in the exam. Clear TLS?
Yes.
Okay, clear, right? Okay. So when we discuss the question itself, when we discuss the topic itself, we discuss the questions. Like 3 or 4 questions only will be there in the domain 5. So that we discussed here right now. We discussed it. So one thing I want you to do is go through the slides. Okay. Review the domain 5. Only you have to know the concept, whatever I discussed with you. One thing from domain 5 is very important is secure KVM. Okay, secure KVM, what are the features we have? Make a note of it. Maintenance mode, what should be enabled, what should be disabled? There's a 100% question. Okay, this is a 100% question. And have an idea about YAR management. This is an optional one. We cannot confirm on that, but know about it. We already know about it. DHCP, DNS, shadowing, that question will be there. Check for it. And then SNMP version 3 is the recommended one, secure one. And then after that, in the operations, know about the difference between TLS 1.2, 1.3, what is record and what is handshake. 100% record and handshake question will be there. Okay, from the domain file. They will never miss this. And then no idea about change management, patch management, incident management, and then problem management. Problem management, incident management, 100% will be there. Change management, we can expect. Know about what is normal, emergency, and standard changes. From that, you can expect one question. From this only domain 5, you'll be getting the question. I'm sure that domain 5 is pretty easy for you. Correct?
Yes, a sort of.
No, some for all the participants, they used to tell me domain 5 is easy because it's all already we using, right? That is why. Know about IDS and IPS, man, right? Sometimes they'll shuffle the question between DHCP and IDS and IPS. Issues in network-based IPS, issues in host-based IPS. Degradation of the quality of the performance, introduce the latency in the stream. Clear? So this is your domain 5. And tomorrow we'll be starting domain 6. So I want your focus.
So IDS degrade the performance and IPS increase the latency, right?
No. In IDS, they're not discussing that. Even IDS, if you install in host-based, it will degrade the performance of the host. Same thing for IPS. If I implement a network level intrusion prevention system, it is going to be in line with the traffic, right? So network-based intrusion detection system will not create an impact because it is offline, it is passive. But a network-based intrusion prevention system will be inline, right? So it is going to introduce some latency.
Yes.
That is the reason. So tomorrow is the most important day because domain 6 the last chapter, and then you have to give your focus on domain 6 because you don't have to read anything for domain 6. Only you listen to my tomorrow session. We'll discuss what are the important laws which will come in the exam. That is more than enough. You don't have to read anything for domain 6. Different data protection laws, audit reports, risk. 3 important topics in domain 6. Okay. From that only you'll be getting a lot of questions. They'll test you like anything. Okay. So that will be discussing tomorrow. So you're prepared for the exam, right?
What do you think?
You're answering, man. You're answering everything correct only.